Hello and welcome back to the Digital North. This week we have another throwback episode for you. It is Four Rooms, which came out in 1995, and it is an anthology with Tarintino, Rodriguez, Anders, and Rockwell. It was an interesting watch, and I hope it'll be an interesting episode for you to listen to. So without further ado, I bring you Four Rooms. Thomas, you want to start us out?
Sure. So I chose this film, Four Rooms, because of my job at a front desk at a hotel in Colorado. And I've had some very interesting experiences, and that's pretty much what this movie is four different rooms in the hotel that the bellhop or front desk clerk deals with. And one of them especially reminded me of a recent mishap at my own hotel. So it gave me a good laugh there, rewatching that, kind of seeing that marriage room. But yeah, what did you guys think about it?
Wait, I'm
No,
sorry.
quick question.
Yeah, I need to know which sketch.
Was it the first scene? I'm assuming it was the first one.
No, I said the marriage one, where it's the guy with the gun.
Okay.
Really?
So well so did you actually,
Are you allowed?
No, I did not get a gun. I was a moderator to a very weird argument between a married couple in a room, and I should not have been there at all.
Wow. Did they try to make you part of their
well,
play for the night?
No. They tried to make me. They were both naked, so there was that.
Yeah.
But this guy was pretty drunk, and no, I offered to call the cops for them, but which eventually did happen. But oh my gosh, so the guy calls me down because he's like, oh, this woman's in my room, I need you to get her out. So for some reason I thought it was some other woman. It turns out he's just bitching about his wife. And he's like, when I get there, he's naked and he's complaining that she won't have sex with him. So I start moderating this disagreement between these two, and she's telling me to call the cops because she hit him and all this stuff. And she shows me this little red mark on her shoulder. She's like, "Look what he did to me." And they're both just probably a little drunk, but eventually the cops get called and she gets brought away in an ambulance. It was a very long night.
Wow, man.
What time did this happen?
Probably about 10 o'clock.
Really? Okay, so...
A.M.? We're talking A.M.?
No, 10 p.m., sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I work nights until 11, so I don't work the night shift as Ted did.
But like, I feel like 10 a.m. would be more acceptable, because I would imagine it would be after like a long night of like partying and substance abuse. But 10 p.m. is like your night is just beginning. Maybe you've had a cocktail.
Yeah, he was.
Too.
Yeah, I think he'd had a few beers.
Oh my
Because she threw a beer at him and.
She threw a beer.
My wife isn't fucking me. Make her.
Yep. And then he was like, she threw a beer at me. I still got beer in my hair. I'm gonna leave it in there just so the cops can see, so they know she threw a beer at me. So he's just walking around all naked, smelling like beer. Like, yeah, this is gonna work for you, but
okay. So he was like, he wasn't even attempting to cover himself up. They were both just openly nude.
Well, she eventually did grab her robe, but he was going buck naked the whole time, whole conversation.
Were they attractive?
Oh no, they were about
like, I don't want to
60.
Or, 60 years old?
Dude.
Or like 60 out of 100 or something.
Yeah, no, 60 years old.
Dude, that is too old to be acting like that.
That's too old.
Yep.
You don't even need to be
or
having
maybe
sex
it's
at
just
60.
the right age.
You're done.
Maybe they have been acting like that before, and they're just finally, we need to see somebody about our relationship. How about the guy who works at the front desk all the time?
You seem like a nice boy.
Like, yeah, that's a good night. But yeah, so what were your guys' general thoughts?
It was less
well, I enjoyed it.
Oh my God, David.
I-
Shut up.
I'm sorry. That's your fault. You rhymed.
No, Nate already began talking. What are you doing?
I didn't hear it. I began
Everyone
talking
else did.
before I heard it. Okay, well, you know what? That's the way it works.
Don't be
My
steamrolling.
feelings are hurt.
Don't be steamrolling.
I'm not trying to
Hurricane
be
David.
steamrolling. I didn't hear anybody. I was like, okay, nobody's going to talk. I guess I will. That was just my perspective.
Oh my God. Okay, you guys need to fight.
Hey, what did you think?
Nate, Dave.
Fine, I'll do it. I'll just say it. I watched this movie and it seemed familiar to me by name. Other than that, I was just like, okay. And then it started, and there was Quentin Tarantino's like production group, and I'm like, okay, I recognize that. I kind of coming back to me about like what I've heard about this, and so I watch it, and I was kind of off put, to be honest, by Tim Roth's acting. Used the Theodore character because he was just like all over the place, man. It's like method acting gone wrong, almost is what I was thinking originally. And then it plays through, and by the end of the movie, when I see the credits rolled, I see that there was a different director for each of the 4 rooms, and a different writer for each of these 4 rooms. And so it was just kind of like somebody weaving together these stories, and it made a lot more sense to me in retrospect. So the movie made a lot of sense when I knew that it was like 4 different things being put together, and not just one creative vision necessarily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you can go, David. Now it's your turn.
Am I okay to talk, guys? Give me
Maybe.
a thumbs up.
It's acceptable.
Are we good? Okay. Don't beat me. Yeah, I totally agree. Like when I first, the first, I guess, I don't know, quarter of the movie, I don't know how we referred to the first episode, he did seem extra, like, fidgety and everywhere and kind of like, but the times he was fidgety and stuff just seemed like not the appropriate times based on what was going on in the scene. But then after like seeing I didn't very much like the first episode or quarter or whatever, because it was very strange, first of all, not all that comedic in my opinion, and the later scenes tended to focus on like a progression of a story between a few characters, and the first one really didn't. It felt like it was like a snapshot, like this is gonna happen, and now we have to, use all of the people in the scene, which were like 7 women who each apparently had their own unique thing that nobody ever explored. But after that, I think they really took his character in a good direction. Each director didn't like go overboard on stuff, or at least shot it and used the other characters in the same sort of way so that he didn't seem so out of place.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying about Tim Roth, and I guess I'd like to dig into that a little bit later. But yeah, I like anthologies in general. I don't think I like this film very much. I think I want to begin with that. It was a lot of things that I like about movies. This movie was lacking, and some of the things that I tend to dislike about film was very present in it. But I think, like, first and foremost, is that there was no real world building in this movie. Like we don't know what city it's in, or like and that doesn't matter necessarily, but we get no feel for the hotel as a greater, like, cohesive unit that the story is being told in. We just kind of see Tim Roth moving through these different rooms. So like there was no real world building, and like the establishing scene where Tim Roth is talking to the retiring old bellhop doesn't, like, I don't know, is this his first night on New Year's Eve and he's working alone? Like, there's nothing about this film which was, I guess, realistic to me, which is fine, I guess, but it also wasn't like slapstick or over the top enough for me to enjoy how unrealistic and kind of weird it was. Thomas, had you heard about this movie before you recommended it, or
Yeah, I saw it years ago. I think it was probably in high school, just randomly. I thought it was kind of weird and like just a kind of funny, quirky comedy. And then I think just read about it randomly online that it was a Tarantino film because I didn't even realize that when I was first watching it. And like Nate said, like watching it again, I realized that it was a 4-part kind of story woven together by 4 different people. And I just thought that kind of played into a more like a very stylistic film. Like I definitely agree there wasn't much world building. It didn't try to make you really believe that it was a true happening. It was kind of just like I don't know. I kind of just took it as a quirky little movie that took an interesting take on their storytelling, like the screenwriting and everything. Kind of, I don't know. Watching it a second time, I really enjoyed how the 4 rooms kind of interacted in the subtle ways. But I definitely agree it wasn't a great film. I just kind of liked the 90s aspect of it. It reminded me a lot of movies from way back then, especially with those funny little transitions and the soundtrack.
Yeah, and the intro was very like
the Pink Panther-ish one.
Yeah,
it was good.
It reminded me of like the Red Bull cartoons.
Yeah,
that
the
style
commercials
of art.
to Red Bull.
Yeah, and I was thinking like maybe it's the same artist or something. I don't know, but it seemed like it was kind of ahead of its time in '94, or it was just like at the leading edge of that style of art, kind of moving towards the more stripped down 2000 stuff.
Yeah. About the first act with the witches. Are witches normal in this world? Because Tim Roth isn't at all surprised that there's like a demonic or like a witch ceremony going on. So it made me wonder about what's going on in the world at large. If people know about witches and if that's like a normal thing, and like if it was, does the hotel consent to it? Because in their room, when Madonna first signs in to the hotel and goes up to her room, I mean, it's already designed in a witchy way, right? Like there's already like because it's the honeymoon suite, I imagine they probably designed the room and furnished it to their specifications, but they had to know that there was some weird ass ceremony that was gonna go down when they had witch stuff all over. So, and Tim Roth didn't seem surprised about the ceremony at all, so it just made me wonder if witches exist in this world and if people are just not fazed by that sort of thing. I feel like more could have gone into what this coven is up to. I don't know, like nothing was established in the coven, and I thought it was just really dumb, mostly.
I feel like a lot of that maybe can be also attributed to the fact that it's 4 different creative ideas coming together. Like if the person who made the coven room also made the other rooms, maybe it would have made a little more sense, right? But because it is 4 different people coming together, maybe I don't know how much collaboration went on or how much communication went on with like what is like acceptable in this world, what's not. And it seems to me like they were just like, okay, make a room and we'll include it. And I also think you can attribute Tim Roth's kind of erratic acting in that scene. Like I love Tim Roth. I think he's a great actor in like Pulp Fiction and other movies and stuff. But here he just seems so disproportionately like bamboozled or flummoxed or just like so when the coven is happening, he's very just like twitchy and like in his little exclamations, just like he's who knows what's going on. Which actually seems to like decrease throughout the film, and instead of becoming just like a weird quirky, he gets actually just like worked up in what you'd actually maybe expect from somebody who's being like overworked in this type of way. but he started off in such a weird place that it was hard to like know where to set, like you said, Ryan, the reality of like these witches and like if it's weird or not.
Yeah. And I have no idea what Tim Roth's character is trying to convey to me. Like I don't know what his motivation is. I don't know like who he is as a character, and nothing about his personality is consistent or like telling or realistic. Because at some times I don't know if he's walking so weirdly because he's trying to be seductive, or if he's like overly effeminate, or if he's really nervous. I don't understand if he's enjoying his job and that's why he's doing it, or like what's going on with him. And at certain times I thought he had like a motor tic or something. It like there were so many questions about not only the world but about Tim Roth's character and like why he was behaving this way, that I just it took me out of the film so much because his acting was so weird. And he was the main, like, we were following him. We were experiencing things through his eyes, and I didn't like seeing the world through his eyes, so it was hard for me to really delve into this film.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess, how they were looking at it, but I don't necessarily think that his character was supposed to be a, like, consistent person or really anybody but a witness and just a tool in each scene. According to something I read, these are based on adult fiction writings of Roald Dahl.
Oh,
so
really?
Yeah. So I think it's more of a way to show off kind of like guest stars and the writing skills and directing skills of the production team.
Well, that's strange to make him so distracting then, because he's like he's not just a dummy. Like he's interacting in the world in such a strange and peculiar way.
I suppose it's just kind of like a if he can act consistently throughout it, I guess that's something that we can hold on to, and they just chose something wacky, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's my take.
So, like, you think about the opening credits, right? And it has a very Pink Panther-esque guy running around getting, like, just confused by all these doors that are opening, right? And doing all sorts of things to him. He's trying to get his hat. He's acting sane, right? Like in the opening credits, this bellhop is actually just somebody who's just like, what is going on?
Uh-huh.
And so I expected Tim Roth to be like that when you watch, like, because he's supposed to be the bellhop in that opening credit. But Tim Roth acts nothing like that. He acts just like he's one of the people from the rooms themselves. It's not like he's a passive like guy who things are happening to him. He's also just part of this weird thing that's going on in this hotel.
Yeah.
So that off put me too, because in the Pink Panther, when they have the little cartoons, that's actually the detective Cousteau or whatever it is, and he's acting, in a similar way to Cousteau when it becomes live action, but this just didn't match up. So that threw me off from the get-go.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, because it's not like Tim Roth is this rational and relatable character with this just madness happening around him. It's like nothing in this film is rational or relatable, and so Tim Roth doesn't ground you in the way that you'd expect that protagonist to. It's just more zaniness, which is off-putting in many ways. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, he's not necessarily acting like a normal guy would in that situation.
It's very absurd, like in the Albert Camus sense, like a very absurd film where just nothing has to make sense, where everything is just happening and you have to just take it for what it is. And like I feel like Tim Roth approached the acting project just like, I'm gonna just I don't even know how he thought about acting about that character, like what his rationale was for it.
Yeah.
And interesting to talk to the guy.
I think going back to the point about it being 4 different people who were directing it, and then Tim Roth being like the vehicle that the story is told through. I wonder if it was too much of a like positive reinforcement that all of the actors or all the directors are probably friends, because I know Robert Rodriguez had worked with Tarantino before or after this, and I wonder if because they were all friends, they're like, yeah, that's a good idea. Like let's do this. Like I wonder if it's like a group project where no one was willing to like take a critical look at the work they were doing and evaluate it honestly.
It's, I think, a great way to describe how it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
What were your guys' favorite rooms? If you had any. Personally, I love Robert Rodriguez's. Sorry.
Which one was
But
Robert's?
he did the one that was with the two kids with Antonio Banderas.
Oh, yeah,
I
that
felt
one
like
was
that was
good.
the most like compelling thing that was happening, and it not only the acting I felt was like pretty decent for that, but the things that were happening to such a ridiculous level that I believed it enough for the scene, right? And that's also when I felt Tim Roth was acting somewhat like not necessarily appropriately, but his character acted in a way that kind of made sense, right? He's getting frustrated with these kids, and that would kind of happen. But yeah, that was my favorite scene.
Yeah. I think that was kind of like the one moment where I understood his motivations to not get in trouble, right? Because he was afraid of the father. Like that was the one time where I understood why he was doing what he was doing, and it made sense. Yeah, I guess I like the misbehaviors probably the most too. I agree. The foot scene. I know Tarantino didn't write that act, but I want to believe that Robert Rodriguez was like, well, I need people in the room to think that it's smelly. So what do you think? And Tarantino's like, oh, their feet smell. You know what? Let's have a close up of the little boy staring lovingly at his sister's feet. That's what we're gonna do. And then later on, like little boy's like sucking on his toe, and like I just thought like, oh, classic Tarantino. You've gotta throw in the foot fetish in every film that you make. Yeah.
It is pretty funny.
That's the story I tell myself about that scene at least.
Weird the when the sister's like, come smell my feet, and then it took like too long for the boy to just like over the feet.
Yeah, it did. It was weird.
Yeah,
a little weird for a brother.
He was really, really just entranced with that.
Yep. I wonder, if Tarantino coached his acting on that bit.
It's not quite the same as fucking her, but it's not nothing either.
It's still a little weird.
Oh, yeah. I guess that was the act that was easiest to understand his motivation, and so I guess.
Yeah, definitely the only act I really completely empathized with his situation on. But I think I enjoyed the final act with Tarantino a lot too. So I was gonna say it's probably a tie for me between that one and The Misbehaviors, just because I like just how raunchy those kids are sometimes. They just didn't give a fuck. And yeah, like Nate said, the stuff that happened in the room was kind of believable, but still pretty damn over the top. But I'd say the most comedic. So I enjoyed it.
It was strange that the brother and the sister spoke with different accents. Like she spoke kind of like a proper just little kid English, and he kind of spoke with this like this just kind of strange Mexican accent that no one else in the family had, and I thought that was a little bit off-putting. Also, I didn't understand why Tim Roth's character, when he came back up with the milk and saltines, why he also brought a bottle of gin. Because,
did he?
Yeah, because that was the gin that the daughter or the sister ended up drinking
just straight out of the bottle. He brought it
I thought
up
that was
on that
champagne.
Oh
tray.
yeah.
He brought it up on the tray with the saltines and milk, and like that was the liquor that ended up like starting the fire. I just
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why he was like, okay, I'm gonna get these kids some snacks like I promised and bring up liquor, although I told them to not drink champagne.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah.
That is kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, how that scene progressed towards the very like end frame where they walk in and they're just frozen, where everything is like just terrible behind them. I thought that was pretty funny.
Mm.
I also like the last scene. I think it's cool to watch Quentin Tarantino act, because that's Quentin Tarantino playing that movie star, and you can just tell how much he loves film, because there's so many references in that last scene to like different films and like different actors that like you can tell that Quentin Tarantino actually thinks are underappreciated or whatever. So I thought that was nice too. It's fun to watch him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the fourth scene was nice as well. Very classic Tarantino. A lot of like quick dialogue that's not necessarily like related to what's going on then. Tons of movie references. It kind of like lulls you to sleep when you don't think anything's gonna happen, and then just like it makes this just immediate 180. Yeah. So very Tarantino-esque. Plus, he made his character drop in bomb, which is classic Tarantino as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be too overly pessimistic and negative about this film, but like with every act, there were a number of things which I just couldn't understand, and it really pulled me out of the film. Like this guy is a famous actor. What was Tarantino's character?
No, I think he was a director or something.
Okay, something like
or
that.
producer or something.
But they were having a party in like this beautiful hotel suite on New Year's Eve, and it's him, his agent, and his buddy. And then it's supposed to be made up, like they're having a party, but there's no one else there except for a woman who they just met that night. So it's just the four.
Well, there was two women who ran to the elevator right when he was coming up.
Oh, sure. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, that's
That
true.
were
I think
naked.
the implication is that the
That's
party
true.
is over, and it's just
Yeah, the
like
party.
tail end of the night.
They're drunk as shit, yeah.
Drunk as shit.
That's the final room, so because it's the final room, so it's like right before, like in the morning when he was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was getting light out.
Yeah, I love the
that-
shot where it's Bruce Willis. Right, he's the agent, isn't he?
Yeah.
Where did
That was Bruce
okay.
Willis?
Yeah.
I think yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really?
I didn't catch that.
When he is in the room talking, and you can see Ted and Tarantino, their shadows right next to it, and you can hear the guy's friend and whatever the other person's name is, the one from the other
Norman.
scene,
Oh.
the woman. But yeah, when you could like hear all of those conversations happening at the same time, and it was just one shot, and nothing
yeah.
moved, you could still like imagine and hear what was going on from each different side. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And there was some good camera work in that scene in general when they were all
Definitely.
sitting at the bar, and they were trying to convince Ted to cut off the finger. As Tarantino's argument became more and more persuasive to Ted, we got this really slow pan, which isolated just the two of them in the scene from everyone else in the scene. And I thought that was really well done, because there were some points where the blocking was kind of awkward in many of the other scenes. But I thought that was, including that scene, but I thought that was just a very classically well done use of the slow pan to isolate the characters. So I appreciated some aspects of that act as well. Yeah. Although in general, I didn't like the cinematography. If I can go back
What?
to my
Yeah.
to my hatred, the cinematography was really weird for me because there were
Oh.
points where I guess the blocking was at fault too, but there were times where you had this like weird close up of one or two characters, which didn't allow any real sense of perspective, either for like the shots and their environment or for the people and like the individual scenes. And then you had all of these just like really overly done quick cuts all the time. Quick cuts between people reacting and then like something crazy happening and then like another quick cut, and it just there was no real continuity to the to the camera work. It didn't aid the storytelling at all. If anything, it made it a little bit more confusing and kind of less engaging, I suppose.
Are you talking about just the last one or the whole?
The whole the film as a whole. Specifically, I think the second scene had a lot of ridiculous quick cuts and like jumps between facial reactions, and like you never or like very rarely saw all three characters in the same shot. Although I think that could have very easily been done with some different blocking.
I think that I liked that choice actually because I think that it's kind of hard to capture all of the reactions because there was a scene that could have happened in like a minute or two. Like not all that much happened in that scene. There was a lot of kind of the same stuff going on. So I think what they tried to do is stretch it out by using different reactions and different shots and kind of like some slow-mo stuff just to add some different dimensions to the story because it's otherwise pretty straightforward. So I think if you do a shot of all the characters at the same time, people might get distracted by one or the other and you end up wasting some emotions or whatever that you're trying to extend the story with.
Yeah, I think in theory maybe that's what they were going for. I don't think that's how it for me worked in practice, because I think in practice it was just kind of like a jumbled mess of cuts, which took me out of any sort of character reaction and any sort of like real idea of what was going on and what the characters were going through. I mean, depending on the scene, of course, and I guess they'd have to do more work to make the scene better or have more substance to it, you would preferably in a group shot have more than one person in the scene at a time, because like jump cuts between people's reactions usually doesn't help the storytelling at all. That's usually a pretty cheap way to film something.
Who directed that one? Does anybody know offhand?
That was one of the names I didn't recognize, but I can look it up. I've got the IMDb up.
Alexandre Rockwell.
Yeah.
Okay. Because like you can think of Tarantino and his little film, like or his room. You could tell like that's Tarantino. It's got a lot of things that he likes. Robert Rodriguez is very Robert Rodriguez for what he likes to do too, with the kind of like shock gore, like punchy stuff, punchy filmmaking.
Oh yeah.
It'd be interesting to see like if these other two rooms and their filmmakers, what their larger orb or however you pronounce that, their larger body of work looks like, if they have one. Yeah, to see if there is like, okay, I understand more where this person is coming from in this room with how they stylizing, because this is how they like to do their like larger works. Maybe it would give it a little more context that the world didn't give you.
Yeah, you know? For sure. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Because Tarantino was, of course, very clear that was Tarantino. I'm looking at Allison Anders' IMDb page, and I'm sorry, that was the wrong person. But I was really surprised that the Witch Act was directed by a woman. I just thought it was just so over the top, weird, and with unnecessary nudity that it couldn't have been directed by a woman. But of course, that's not true. Maybe it could explain why it just wasn't sexy at all. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't understand sexuality. That bitch.
It's also weird that scene where it was just like the use of nudity was very strange. Like
Yeah.
it would make sense if they all had their tops off, but just have two people with the tops off. Like obviously Madonna's like famous enough where she's not gonna have her top off. But like you don't want to do it at all. Like what's the point? And this is I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like they're like, all right, it's gonna cost too much to have all of them with the tops off, so let's just go with 2.
Let's go with a couple of the actresses, which we have never seen before. They can take their shirts off. But like, does that aid the ceremony? Are they topless because that's what like this witching ceremony calls for, or like I don't
think it'd be necessarily for everybody to have their tops off.
Right.
That's like proof.
Yeah.
I think it's just the kind of witches they are, because they're all kind of different witches, right?
That's fair.
One of them phrases birchwood, and another one wears all latex suits, where she can bend her knees like 10 degrees at a time.
Yeah, that was so funny when they had to like bend down and like do this like weird cheerleading
I was like,
thing.
I could tell they
Madonna
cut at the
move.
exact point when Madonna couldn't go any further.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, guys, I can't bend any further than this.
Yeah, that was strange. Not very practical. She must be new to the witching world. Also, they were like, there was so much less going on with the witches than the intro would have suggested. Like, I thought that she would have been a like major recurring character, and that she would have this magical snake or something like that, or she would even be like a pivotal character in that scene, but she didn't, or in that act, but she didn't really matter in that act either. Like,
It just seemed like really bad softcore porn.
Yeah.
I would describe it.
Limpcore.
Well, IMDb, oh my god, I keep jumping between these characters. I'm sorry, these directors rather. Forget what I'm gonna say because my analysis doesn't make sense otherwise. But the second act, which is directed by Alexandra Rockwell. Her IMDb profile begins with a skilled and celebrated filmmaker. Alexandra Rockwell is perhaps best well known for the works In the Soup and 13 Moons. Rockwell's characters are as intricate as they are flawed. Which I didn't see that. But
for me, it was
Also, how
hard
do
to
you
see.
pronounce that name? Because
Alexandra?
I would think it would be Alejandro or like Alexander.
Well, Alejandro would be with a J.
Yeah, no, I was thinking it was like the Americanized version of Alejandro or something. Because it looks like Alexandra. It looks like Alexandra, but that would be a traditionally female name.
Yeah.
Which he is not.
Her parents were probably actors too.
Yeah.
Just strong name.
He was born in a witching ritual.
Which, by the way, did you guys think that the ritual was gonna go wrong? Because I thought that the fact that they had sex in the tub was gonna give like birth to this weird like Tim Roth plus that other witch like baby like molded together with like maybe this goddess character, and I thought it was gonna be this grotesque monstrosity, and that was gonna be like the punchline. But instead there was no punchline.
There was no punchline.
No, it just
yeah,
worked.
It kind of just ended on it working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really.
It would have been nice if there was some connection between the different rooms, like if there was a fifth act where things came together and made sense, and like we understood why we saw this.
Because that Aphrodite emerges from the water, right, or whatever, and you see her face very much like she's gonna be like, "Oh man, here it is," and then nothing is talked about after that. Like it's.
Yeah, it was kind of anticlimactic, definitely.
Yeah.
I liked when in the misbehaviors room, the third, when there's give me a number, 3 numbers, and so she calls a random room, the little kid, and then it's the one guy from that one room who picks up. I thought like that's nice. I wish there would have been a little more of that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I agree. That was my favorite tie-in, and one of the only tie-ins other than that other woman just appearing again in the 4th room. But like, did Tim Roth's character change and grow at all? Like, was there any sort of growth of the character? I don't know that there needs to be, but I couldn't make anything out. I thought he was gonna become a virtuous savior type character, or he was gonna like become like stronger and like say no and like not give in to temptation finally, or like not be greedy because he's kind of chasing money throughout the movie. But like there's no realization for this character, right? He doesn't become emboldened in ways that he wasn't before. He just kind of decides like, I'm gonna go all out and I'm just gonna take people's money and not like be a good person when I do it. Like, I'm not gonna take care of these kids, although I'm taking $500 for it, and I'm not gonna say no to cutting off this strange man's pinky for $1,000, which isn't that much money.
That's
really.
a great deal. I mean, on both sides. I was thinking, at first I thought they were gonna ask him how much he wanted to cut off his own hand.
Yeah.
Like that's what because that's a good dilemma. Like a few million, a lot of people would cut off their own hand for even like $1 million.
Sure.
How much would it take you guys?
Which hand?
I've got a knife right here, probably nearby you, so just go grab it.
Which hand? Do I get to choose?
You get to choose.
I choose your hand.
Oh no! How
Dave,
much do I have to pay you?
Dave, I will cut off your dominant hand for... You just have to pay me $10.
Okay. But you have to buy the plane ticket, so...
Oh, fuck.
Oops.
I'd be more likely to cut off my own finger than my own hand. Like, I do my own finger for maybe $1,000 if true to medical science, when Quentin Tarintino was saying, just put on an ice motor attach. If that's true, I'd do it for like a couple hundred, but
a couple hundred.
Come on, that's
Nate's a cheap fucker.
Couple
you
hundred.
you live in America, and you would probably pay much more than that to put it back on.
That's a good point. Actually.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more.
Nate just needs a month's rent and medical expenses.
He's good.
Okay, I would take off my left hand for $10 million, no less.
I don't know if it'd be worth it.
I would have to research prosthetic limb prices.
Yeah.
So why $10 million? How much would you be losing $10 million worth of, I don't know, pleasure or something
Certainly.
from your life?
Certainly.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I think like it would have to be an insane luxury that I would be afforded by losing such a significant part of my life. I like sports. I like exercise. That would really hinder jiu-jitsu. That would really hinder any sort of gymnastic work. That would hinder typing, which is
Yoga
like
would be
intellectual
hard. Downward
property or
dog.
like a process that I hope that I'll be engaging in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel a lot less confident and sexy, and like it's a good thing I have a nice lady.
You could
friend
call
right
yourself
now.
disabled. Wear a hook.
I would just say retarded.
Ladies like the hook.
I'm physically retarded, baby.
It's a yeah. Well, you're probably mentally not great if you're gonna cut off your own hand too. So
I'm not gonna be the cutter.
there's also that.
I'm not gonna be the cutter, am I? That's brutal.
Well, no, but you don't have to do it yourself, but you're still saying, go ahead and cut off my hand. So it's not like a true disability you didn't choose. It's like,
I don't have to know that.
I'm trying to take advantage of disability.
an acquired disability.
Dave, what about you?
I would never ever
Two
for any amount
chimichangas.
because that would be immoral. Oh,
It's
yeah,
immoral.
a couple chimichangas.
David, I don't know if
I'm
you
with
know
you,
this,
David.
but your soul is forever while your body is not. So, I mean,
But I keep my soul in my left hand, so poses a problem right there.
is that your left hand? Because I demanded
I think
are you
$500.
left-handed? I demanded your dominant hand.
No, I'm right-handed.
Okay.
I hold my soul in my left hand so that I can do things with my right hand. Yeah.
All right. So, do we have any closing remarks on the film?
Is this supposed to be a comedy?
Yeah.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Not the first one. The first one is
Yeah, the
just
first
like
one's
a
just weird.
second wave feminism, lesbian.
Softcore porn.
I wonder how much of the budget went into Madonna's payment for it. Because it had to be a lot.
I wonder how much went into that dress. I mean, went into getting her into that dress.
Oh, yeah.
Because
A lot of baby oil.
From babies.
I have one major issue with the fourth act. They said hatchet
I know.
so many
And it
times.
was
They said
cleaver.
hatchet close
Oh
to
my
a dozen
God.
times. That was a cleaver. That was not a hatchet.
Thank you.
And they kept
I'm glad you brought it up. I
specifically
would've forgot.
saying hatchet. And I just like,
Yeah.
oh.
Oh.
Why would you do that, Tarantino? You're usually like all about the details. I can't believe
It must have been intentional. It had to have been intentional.
I guess.
That's
or
how
he's-
little these people know about actual life.
Yeah.
They don't know kitchen utensils and they don't know labor, like hard labor utensils either. Tools is what they call it.
They don't know hard labor. These motherfucking
Utensils.
directors. He does know racism.
Another issue I had with that scene is the very start when Quentin Tarantino, like we're looking through Ted's eyes at Quentin Tarantino. Like the way he delivered the lines wasn't so bad, but his timing, like he didn't wait between any of the lines he delivered. Like you could tell he's saying this sentence or paragraph, and then he immediately starts on another one with a totally like clear motivation, and there's nothing else goes on for like a whole minute plus. That was pretty annoying.
Yeah, that scene was kind of weird.
Yeah. Again,
I was
With
thinking,
another actor, it might have worked well, but I don't think he's strong enough to do that on his own. And it's a really strange, awkward angle to do it too. And there are no cuts or anything.
mhm.
So
Again, I think it goes back to this just kind of group work mentality where they're just a group of friends who don't want to criticize each other too much. And it was probably, I don't know, maybe they enjoyed it, but I imagine it probably wasn't the most fun or rewarding project. So maybe they were just like, let's just get it done, you know, like let's get this to theaters. I'm not going to critique you too much. Let's just do it. You know, like I wonder
because
if
he'd
they
already
felt
done
into
some
that.
successful films.
Did they? Other
Or-
than Tarantino
he
and
did.
Rodriguez?
Tarantino did.
And Rodriguez.
Tarantino did. So at least it was like okay, yeah, I haven't looked into the other ones. I just know Tarantino did. Is it Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, maybe?
Dude,
Yeah,
Tarantino
this.
did.
Kill Bill,
Yeah, Tarantino did a lot.
Hateful Eight.
No, before this movie.
Oh, before.
Yeah, so he'd already had a career.
Yeah, I wonder if he was the driving force behind this. Oh, he also did True Romance before this.
Yeah, 94 was Pulp Fiction, and 92 was Reservoir Dogs. So he had some good movies behind him.
Yeah.
And I know at least Pulp Fiction was real well received when it came out, right?
And Reservoir Dogs. But it's strange because Tarantino can be pretty inconsistent as well, because True Romance, I mean, some people like it, but I thought that was a very bad film. I thought
Did he direct that or write it though?
Written. It was written by him, which I guess would have made more sense.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I guess because if he would have directed it, it probably would have had a much different tone. Just the tone of the movie was so weird for the content of it. It just didn't make any sense. So I guess that's a fair point that he didn't direct it. He just wrote it.
My closing thoughts on this film are: I ultimately don't think I'll watch it again. I thought there were like one or two like images or shots that I appreciated quite a bit. Like I said it, the freeze frame of like when Antonio Banderas walks in, I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, it really, not a lot of it did it for me. If nothing else, for Tim Roth's just performance, which was very perplexing to me. What I did like about it is that I think it's awesome that these four filmmakers decided to do this. I think that's a really cool, like, interesting idea, right? What other films are directed with like by four other people that are just kind of collaborating? Maybe I'm not collaborating very much, but so I do appreciate like that this happened in a way that it did, and that it was able to actually happen. Because if you think about nowadays, well, I don't know how old this film is, but it just doesn't seem like a lot of that stuff, creative like work together type stuff happens. So I like that part of it. But.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, the only other anthology that comes to mind right now is the Animatrix, but that's not all connected by the same central character, which is in the same location. So, yeah, I don't know of much else that really looks like this. I appreciate that positivity.
David? No? Okay, I'll go. I got it.
You go.
All right, so I think I agree with you guys that the four connected stories is probably my favorite aspect. I also did like a lot of the cinematography, like the scene where he's in the bathroom with the married couple with the gun, where they kind of like pan behind the medicine cabinet, and then that cut in half scene where he's leaning out the window with that guy puking over him. There's just a few cool scenes like that, like Dave mentioned with the Antonio Banderas, and then the one Ryan mentioned with the slow pan. Just a few really cool scenes like that were very engrossing. But I also agree that his movements were way overdone, his eccentric little kind of tics. And I also hated Madonna's growl along with that scene in general, but her character was just kind of a little too weird.
Yeah.
And with the little amount that she was involved, I just didn't really enjoy her part at all. But I did enjoy the film as it came to a close. That fourth scene put it together for me, so overall I liked it.
Yeah. It ended with a bang.
Yeah. All right. We ready?
Dave, what are your
I don't want to
closing
talk over
remarks?
anybody. I agree with a lot of what we talked about. I think it was overall. I don't know if are we rating it right now?
Ooh, after your closing marks, end it with a rating.
Okay. I think Tim Roth, right, is his name? Is that correct?
Yep.
He's the actor.
Yeah. I did actually like his performance. I kind of looked at it as a kind of Mr. Bean who can speak, thrown into a bunch of different worlds, where things go down different ways. And I kind of separated his character from the whole rest of everybody else, just because he was present in all of them, I suppose. And so that kind of made it more believable, the storylines. The first one I didn't enjoy very much because didn't have much of a story, mostly just topless women, and that's okay, but it's no way to do the first
It didn't even do that well.
No.
Yeah.
By the way, one of them was the in Say Anything, I believe, the movie. She's the girlfriend that he's going after. You know that movie, Say Anything? Cameron Crowe,
Never
John
heard of it.
Cusack.
Nope.
It's if you see people like in sitcoms holding up a radio or a boombox in front of somebody's window, and they're playing, I don't know, whatever song that it's from that movie. They're referencing.
What's your rating of this movie?
My rating of this movie would be 3 of 5 empty syringes.
Mine would have to be 3 rooms out of 4 because that first one sucked.
That's a good one.
Nate?
I'd give it probably 2 dead whores out of 4.
I give it 2 fingers out of 5.
For how much money, though?
1,000 each.
10 mil each, bruh.
10 mil.
Okay. That's a lot higher rate. I might as well just take your whole hand. That only costs 10 mil.
The offer's passed. you brought in a cleaver instead of a hatchet, and that changed everything. Okay, well, thanks, guys.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Digital North. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check us out at curiousmagnet.com to listen to all of our episodes, as well as the rest of our content. You can follow our Facebook page at The Curious Magnet to receive notifications when new episodes of The Digital North and the rest of our content come out. Thanks again. Stay curious.